Not for Ruby, really.
Right. Okay, well, welcome to the November meeting. Time's running out for the year, I know. This meeting will be a little bit more in-depth because we didn't have committee meetings this month, as you'll recall. A big welcome to everybody, and particularly to our guests, Tom and Jackie, and the press. We'll get going and I'll call for apologies.
Councillor Galvin has issued an apology to the meeting.
Would somebody like to move that be accepted? Councillor Egan, Councillor Young, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Now, the minutes of the previous council meeting held on the 29th of October 2020 as circulated be taken as read and confirmed. Could I have a mover that way, please? Councillor Young, a seconder?
Yeah.
Councillor Dick, put that motion, those in favour say aye. Okay. Now, I would like to introduce, it needs no introduction I guess, but the new President of the Untitled Chamber of Commerce, Mr Tom Smith, is going to make a presentation to the meeting. Thanks Tom, and welcome, and congratulations on your...
Yeah, thanks John. Do you want me to just sit up here?
Yeah, that'd be good, so we can see you, yeah.
Well, turn the microphone on.
Yeah, put the mic on.
Yep,
Got it. Right.
You look pretty good there in the council, Tom.
Yeah, I don't get used to it.
September next year.
I don't have a lot to say. It's pretty straightforward and simple. But I thank Max for the invitation to come and speak. I thought it's important to introduce myself to the councillors that I didn't know. I've prepared a little thing here. I'll read it out. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Tom Smith, and recently been elected as the President of the Warrior Chamber of Commerce. I was born and raised in Warrior and lived there most of my life. My wife Jackie, she runs the local hairdressers in Hope Street. I also work in Hope Street. I've got an office located next to the town hall, and I run a small investment company out of that. Today I'd like to give you a brief outline on why I decided to run for President of the Chamber and what I plan to do going forward. For some time I have believed the Chamber of Commerce was not functioning on many levels. I felt their interaction with business was lacking. I formed the opinion that their reputation and standing within the community was damaged, and it had become obvious to me that the Chamber's relationship with Council had become so dysfunctional that it was now counterproductive. I felt that all these attributes were leading to poor outcomes for Warrior. Now, it's easy to sit back and poke holes in other people's efforts and to bang on about what needs to change. The hardest part is when it comes time to act. And after much thought and encouragement from within the community, I decided that that time had come, and I came to the view that the only way forward was for complete board renewal and an influx of new members and new ways. And for the last couple of months I've been working to that end. I'm pleased to report that the work paid off, and as it stands today, the Warrior District Chamber at 75 members is one of the largest in the region. We have a complete new board or committee. Amber Stevens has taken the role of Vice President and is the manager of IGA in Mitre 10. She's got 45 staff under her. Amanda Hawkins is our new Treasurer. Amanda's the General Manager of Premium Aged Care Services based out of Warrior, and she currently has over 135 employees. Laura Cush has taken on the job of Secretary. She runs a promotional business called Full Package Marketing and is an online guru. I'm lucky to be leading such a talented and focused team of Warrior's interests at heart, and that I believe they've got excellent management, marketing and business acumen, and I think that's very important with the Chamber. They're not, they've got the runs on the board. So we've got the new members, we've got the new board. Where to from here? Well, we're only 2 weeks in, and I feel we've hit the ground running. We currently have five. We have 5 active grant applications in the works, approaching up to $1 million. Obviously we're not going to get all of them, but I mean, if successful, this money will be used to kick-start the Warrior Town Revitalisation Program. It's an exciting program that Chamber's put together over the last couple of weeks. that promotes and supports new and existing businesses and community groups in Warialda. We want to be much more than just a traditional Chamber of Commerce. We want to be a Chamber of Commerce and community. So business houses, but community people as well, just general members. But we've inherited a chamber that is strapped for cash, and I'm of the opinion you can't do anything without money. So that rectifying that situation is going to be top of mind for me. As I said, the last 2 weeks we've initiated 2 last-minute Christmas promotions. They've been pretty well put together pretty quick because there was nothing in the works when we took over. We've had a committee meeting, we've had a general meeting, we've attended Department of Education and Training and TAFE Skills workshop with the council. And just yesterday we met with Max and Leah and Chris Turner from the Shire, and I have to say that my meeting was very positive. We couldn't have asked for more. I've been in contact with Adam Marshall, I've been in contact with Mark Carlton, and they both assure me, and I totally believe that we will enjoy their full support going forward. We've moved to open our membership to all of Guida Shire. It was restricted to just Yallaroy, and I think that time's gone. So anyone in Guida, we'd love to have you. And we've recently added the council as a member. And on that note, I'd encourage any of you to come along to our monthly meetings going forward. I won't be attending your monthly meetings going forward, but I assure you I do listen to everyone on YouTube, and I take keen interest in them. We've revamped our online presence and launched a new hashtag and logo. Our hashtag is Warialda's Worth It. I ask you to all jump online and like and share our page. We've started talking to interested business startups in the Warialda area. We currently have 3 that we're talking with in the hope to join the dots between landlords, startups, and to fill some empty shops. That's the first 2 weeks. We've got many more ideas and plans to come, but just to give you a rough outline, of what I'd like the chamber to look like going forward. I'd just like to repeat a few words that I said at the AGM fortnight ago. I believe there are 3 simple ingredients to a great chamber. 1, continual and ongoing support for all businesses associated with town, whether they be businesses in town, rural-based businesses, home-based businesses, online-only businesses, or tradies. I think we need to support a lot of them. 2, we need to identify and tackle large, specific community projects, and that feeds into how I want it to be much more than just a Chamber of Commerce. We want to make Warialda an even greater place to live and visit. I want to listen to the community, find out what we want, what we need, where the gaps are, and then identify a project, stick with that project until its completion, and not have a dozen little projects on the boil that never come to fruition. And number 3, I want to work with council. We want to make ongoing, constructive representations to council, for I strongly believe if we fail to work with council, we won't reach our full potential. I think those 3 things, it's all that is required to run a strong, independent, functioning and competent chamber, support business, promote community and work with council. If we focus on these 3 fundamentals, I'm confident that Warialda's best days are ahead of us. I thank you for listening, and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Tom. That's very refreshing. Does anybody have any questions?
I'd just quickly like to say to Tom, it's really refreshing as a councillor, and everyone in the room here are people that are community minded, and obviously I've known your family all my life, and I think it's just so refreshing to have, and particularly working with the council, because that's been the fall down before, and they've been bloody not helpful at all in that way. So it's really refreshing, mate, and it's not going to be easy, and we won't always agree with you and you won't always agree with us,
Definitely
but it's how we sort of sort it all out
Yeah,
later
but I
on
mean,
as
you can
well.
disagree, as long as you're pulling in the same direction.
Yep. Spot on.
You're always going to have a falling out or a disagreement, but you don't let it be the end of the show, you know.
Yeah,
Good on you.
But I think people wouldn't be here if they weren't
no, that's right.
community minded.
Absolutely, dead right.
We all want the same thing. We might disagree. I can't even see how we would really, but you know, we might disagree here and there. But no, it's not going to.
Yep, right.
Yeah. No, but thanks, Jeff. No, good on you.
Yes, councillor.
I just wanted to congratulate you, that's all, and say well done. And,
Thanks.
for standing up and being the leader. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, it's taken a while, but yeah. Anyway, things have. I've got the time to do it now, so yeah.
That's excellent.
We can do it.
Tom, for the benefit of the council, I know that you had a meeting with Max and Leah, and as you know now anyway, we had 300,000 to spend in the town, and we will really appreciate the Chamber's input as to how we should go about that.
Yeah. No, look, we're happy to help in any way we can. If you ever, I'm easy to find. So
Yeah.
please, we're happy to. We're an open book. We want to help out, and as I said, council's now a member of the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to join before.
Yeah, no. Well, we've opened up our membership. It's public knowledge. There's no secrecy
No, that's
as
correct.
to who's a member. We're an open, transparent book. We don't want to.
Now, Tom, I know in most marriages, wife has the last say. Would you like to say something, Jackie? If you can think about
I think I'll let you.
it. Okay.
Jackie's already had her bit to say.
Yeah.
Right, good.
Well, thanks very much for coming. And,
Thank you. Thanks,
and,
Tom. Very good.
We're very pleased with the result, Tom.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Right.
Think about that and spend the 300,000.
Oh yeah.
We're going to do these later on. Well, the next thing is there's a couple of late items there. I just asked if somebody like to move or accept them onto the agenda.
So move, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Colton, seconded by Councillor Dixon. Put that motion, those in favour say aye.
So you want to go back to declaration?
Oh, yes, I do. I missed that. Well, this is particularly important today. I'm going to call for declarations of interest, gifts received and conflicts of interest.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to declare conflict of interest in item 8. Feedlot.
I would too, Mr DM, please. I'll have to leave the room when we're onto that. We should be right to sit through this part of it though, shouldn't we? It's only when we get onto the feedlot that we'll leave.
Yeah, I was going to suggest if you wanted to, we could deal with that so that
So Patsy could
could
deal with it now.
Yeah,
Deal with item 8.
Well, it's item 9 actually.
So
It's
8.
item 9 because of the change.
Okay, it's on the item 8 later.
The microphone is?
No.
It's on now.
Right. Well, if with the permission of the meeting, can we go straight onto that, and that'll leave Patsy to the rest of the day free. I'd ask the Deputy Mayor to come and take the chair for this, and I'll have to vacate. Yes, sir, what time's the Imperial? Oh, that's it.
You can get a coffee.
Yeah, that's what I meant, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Catherine.
Not really.
Go around, Patsy, can't help you. Oh, this one.
I just said you yesterday, Max, but you weren't there.
Yeah.
Right, I just,
I understand there's going to be suggested. Do you want me to announce
That's
it?
exactly what I was going to say.
I will just.
And we have to think out. I didn't see you yesterday, but when John mentioned it the other day, and this compared to the standards we've had in the past, this is a shocker to them.
Yeah, and they've been operating.
And Janelle and Max whole lifestyle has been compromised, and they were told it was that by the time of the marriage. She said it's much more than that. It's a commercial, and it's compromising John since everything.
They're content.
And
He's content.
it is a comment, and I felt that. So am I going to?
So, well, that's the item, that's the recommendation from the thing, and that's the suggested.
So I guess we've all had a lot of time to read this. This isn't in confidential.
No, it's not confidential.
Okay. And I think that we'd all agree that there's more questions than there are answers. And my recommendation was going to be, and Max has written it here, that we defer this decision until we've had the opportunity to go on site and visit the site. I think we've got a second one pending. I saw that in the paper.
Yep.
And if we're going to do one, we're going to do two, and we're going to do them well. So my recommendation or the council's recommendation is that we defer this till we've had the opportunity to visit. I think there's a lot more to it than we think.
I would support that, yes.
Marilyn, so I've got so I have Francis seconding it and
Yep.
Marilyn moving on second. Yeah. How does everyone feel about that, and was anyone like to say anything?
Madam Chair, I know they put in for the feedlot, but they were feeding well in excessive numbers prior to this, and that was in grass-fed paddocks, like exactly what Ceres was doing. And we tried very hard with Ceres to try to get the definition between grass-fed people, grass-fed cattle, where they class as grass-fed cattle and feedlot cattle. Why hadn't we acted on something like this before, when it was pretty common knowledge that they're feeding in excess of the numbers now?
We have acted on it. We've served a notice on them. And it's actually a bit different to Ceres. Ceres actually owned the cattle, I think, that they were drought, or suggested they were drought feeding. In this case, the cattle were introduced and they don't actually belong to the people who own the property, who run the business.
Yeah.
They charge an adjustment fee, a daily adjustment fee, which would have got them something like $5,000 a day. I think the circumstances of this case were very different, and when it was brought to our attention, that's why we served a notice which encouraged them to actually apply.
Yeah.
And given the way that the business has been operating up to date, it's a concern that they'll actually stick to the 999, which seems to be more an administrative convenience, DA, than an actual attempt to secure a legitimate approval. I support what Councillor Egan is suggesting, that we do a site inspection.
I don't have a problem with that. I just sort of trying to, and glad you clarified it, but I just trying to make a comparison
Yeah.
between, you
No,
know,
what you say is absolutely right. You know, like this business is very different to some of the other feedlots that we've got in the Shire.
Yeah,
And I think as a council, we've visited Ceres,
most of them anyway, yeah.
and I know that we know, and Jeff, you have spoken about it in council before, your amenity's been but it's not good where the flies and everything.
I haven't had a real good chance to.
And the people, I know that the people that made the submission here didn't do it as a, well, it's not really as a, but I know that these people have had their amenity very badly compromised, to the point where they're both getting on in years and they don't feel they have something that is saleable. The flies, the smell, at times, not all the time, they'll first to tell you that, at times, and the dust are really compromising their amenity. And I think we have to be very mindful of that, because we've heard Jeff and Dave Moore speak of how theirs has been compromised in the past. And I think they've put up with it stoically for 3 years now, not because they were told that it was drought feeding. They now know that it's much more than drought feeding, that it's commercial feeding.
Yeah.
And I think we have to, as a council, be very aware of it, because we're going to do another one in a few months' time.
Another thing which needs a bit of clarification is the distance from actually Gravesend. They say it's only about a bit more than 3 kilometres.
Across the river, it's less, I think. I
Less
can't
than-
imagine
yeah,
why Gravesend people haven't had something to say. Stuart, that's up to them though.
Yeah.
They didn't
Yeah.
do
Francis
it.
had a hand up first.
Oh, well, Stuart had his hand up.
Actually, we only had the one submission. How have we handled that? It is the closest property.
Yes,
And
it
as the
is.
Deputy Mayor is saying, it is of concern that for many years they've had flies, smells, etc.
Yeah. The submission sort of was pretty, it was light on, but I have been out and inspected. I was out there on a day when the winds were going in their direction. The flies and the smell wasn't as bad as I was led to believe. In fact, the feedlot was it's one of the least smelly ones I've actually been to. I even went around to the other side of the river towards Gravesend and checked smell, flies, dust. There was nothing. So I did do my due diligence in trying to substantiate and mitigate that particular complaint. But with every feedlot, at different times of the year, at different conditions, sorry, I'm having a menopausal moment, there will be impacts. There's no way you can have no impacts. It's whether those impacts are so substantial that they're going to ruin someone's life, or they can't operate their business, or, there will be some impacts. It's whether those impacts are so substantial, and that's the thing you have to determine, is whether it is going to be so bad that, somebody can't live in their house, or can't, go outside, or, can't, drive around their paddocks, because, it is so inhibitive of their normal activities that they used to do before. There is a definition for what they're doing. It's called restricted facilities. It is a part of our LEP, it's in the definitions. And it is permitted with consent under that zone, the RU1 zone. The problem with that is that nobody's paid any more attention to it than that. There's no benchmarks for what it entails or how to control it. There's no performance measures they need to meet. So basically a restricted facility is a facility where animals are constrained for agricultural purposes, including milking sheds, pads, feed stalls, holding yards, paddocks, where the number of livestock exceed the ability of the vegetation to recover from the effects of grazing in normal growing season, but does not include a facility for drought or similar emergency relief. There is also some, I suppose, that there's an inability for anybody to tell me whether they're out of drought. No.
I heard yesterday that we aren't in drought.
We're in a recovery phase,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean we're drought free.
No.
It just means we're not in severe drought. So where does that turn? When are we not in drought? When we in that phase where it says we're not drought? Or are we in drought up to that point? Or are we out of drought as soon as we're out of severe drought?
Did you contact DPI?
Yes, I've been in contact with the Department of Primary Industries, and they've not been able to give me a straight answer. Nor have they been able to give me any benchmarks or restriction of numbers in a paddock or densities for the restricted facilities. And they were the first to admit that they have no information, and it has been going under the carpet all this time.
Francis had a question for you.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, and it was regarding what you're now calling restricted facilities. I call it drought feeding, but and they've admitted to being drought feeding for some time, and the number I think in there was over 3,000. But and my question was going to be, can we limit that? But you've obviously just answered that, with that description there, that we have no way of managing that because there are no parameters, there's no benchmarks, there's none of that information.
There's
but
nothing.
the other health thing I wanted to say, it affects your mental health.
That's right.
It affects your mental health. It's not just about being able to go out and dig in your garden or anything like that. It's about being able to get off the bed to be able to go out and dig in your garden if you're living next to something like that. And
your mental health is just as important as your physical health. So, you know, we need to be aware of those things, I think.
Well, it inhibits their ability to live.
Mm. Stuart?
Patsy, this DA is not asking for a restricted, is it? It's asking for a feedlot.
And it's only asking for that area of the pens, the 6 pens.
So there'll
Mind
be no
you-
outside grazing of the paddocks.
No, that's not included in this DA. This is what's in the actual 6 pens.
The development is fairly close to the river. Are we satisfied that pollution, like a rain event, is not going to pollute the river?
There's a valley in between, and then you come back up again. It's not a very steep valley, but it is a valley. The sediment ponds and the effluent pond are situated so that can't happen. Well, in a 90 percentile year and a 100-year event for a 24-hour storm, that it may fail at that point, but that is extremely unlikely. So that's the benchmark they have to meet, is they have to have a facility that'll hold that amount of water.
Does the truck movement of grain coming in for the cattle and cattle going in and out, do you have any concerns about that?
I have concerns for Eden Forest Road. Particularly, it's got some very thin, narrow causeways. They're very steep. The indication in the DA is that they will only be travelling east along Eden Forest Road onto the highway, but that doesn't restrict grain trucks. That's cattle trucks we're talking about. I mean, grain trucks will come from the local area, whichever route is the shortest, I assume. So there's also some, Eden Forest Road is, it's fairly wide enough, I would think. But it has some pretty twisty turns on it, which sight distances, particularly at the neighbour's property turn-off. It's on the top of a hill. There's not a lot of sight. If you're, a truck's coming up there and you're coming the other way, you can't see them until you're on top of them.
Does it have a school bus?
It does, but only part of the area. So
Is that a worry to you?
It is a worry in the fact that that if they operate in those times and they're not restricting their speed and dust.
You know,
There
if
is
it's
one property.
a school bus run, Patsy.
Sorry, what was
Is it
that?
a school bus run out there? I
I
don't know.
don't think so.
I think it's on the other end of the Eden
Yeah,
Forest
I
Road, towards
More east side.
yeah. So whether the trucks
Yeah.
do, at the moment, nobody's said whether they do travel that way or not. But I can't assume why they wouldn't. If they want to go to Moree or that way, why wouldn't you go that way?
Absolutely.
Jeff?
Oh, I just want a couple of things there. With all the things we've got to look at, 900 and like 1,000 head is not a big feedlot
No.
when you compare it with what we're up against and all the bigger ones. The other thing was you were talking about the flies and things like that, and the problems we had. There's no cattle over in the feedlot at Gunny Wildlife as far as I know now, and hasn't been for a fair while. We've still got flies like anything, and I think the fly problem is it's a lot wider spread than just feedlots. I know it contributes to it, but when you're only looking at the TV every night, someone's getting interviewed at Tamworth or someone who's got a bloody fly all over them. I mean, it's happening everywhere. But the flies at home and where our homestead is still probably, could be still 10 k's from the Gunny Wildlife feedlot, and we've got flies like anything now. Have had them all winter. So that's one. We've got to be careful that we're not upsetting a new promotion
Industry.
Yeah.
from things that aren't necessarily caused wholly and solely by that.
That's a really good point, Councillor Smith. That's what I was going to say. The assessment that has been undertaken by the council was based on what we were given for a 999 head feedlot. The concerns, a lot of the concerns, especially from the submission, is based on what's actually happening in an unauthorised manner on the site. And they're two different issues, but I think they would be beneficial to go out and have a look and let them know that if they do end up getting an approval for a 999 lot feedlot, then that will be administered and inspected regularly by the council to make sure it has. I should also point out the complaint to the council that led to the inspection and the notice being issued wasn't by the person or the people that made the submission about it. It was from another resident. And so it's the concern out there is not just this one person that made a submission. There are others out there that are concerned.
I'm not saying not to go out there,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I know that.
I was just going to say, so assuming they get the approval for the 999 head feedlot, the other paddocks around the feedlot, it indicates in here they might grow some bits and pieces for it. But is that where they are currently opportunity feeding, as I call it?
They're actually opportunity feeding around the feedlot.
Around the feedlot. And that's what you're calling
Yeah.
that restricted.
facility.
So there is no legal requirement for...
Well, there is, as I said, it's permitted with consent. So they're supposed to get consent. But
So
exactly what are we getting consent for,
Yeah.
in what numbers, and how we go about assessing that without any background
Yeah.
or restricted numbers or benchmarks that they need. Because those areas around the feedlot they're not in the controlled drainage area. This is where your pollution will come from. If there's going to be runoff pollution, that's where it'll come from.
Can I also say that from my point of view, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that someone can introduce cattle from an external source and claim that they're drought feeding or restricted feeding or whatever. That was designed to assist farmers whose existing cattle were having trouble eating, not to allow someone to start a business, which is what's happened in this case.
You're right.
That was what I was going to ask you, Patsy.
However-
When do we decide that it's a commercial venture, not a opportune or...
So the definition of extensive agriculture, which is your normal paddock feeding, you know your cows grazing in the paddocks, is for the grazing of livestock other than pigs and poultry for commercial purposes. On living grasses and other plants on the land as the primary source of dietary requirement, and any supplementary or emergency feeding or temporary adjustment
Well, we can go to court
or
and decide which
housing
one's
for
right.
weaning, dipping, tagging and similar husbandry purposes
Yeah.
for livestock. So really it's in the definition.
Yeah, no,
that
I still don't think that's what was meant by that
it's
definition.
not the intent, I don't
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, either do I.
Because, every agricultural, every farm is a commercial,
Yeah.
it's commercial, that's what you
They're
do
ma-
for a
yeah,
living.
it's a business.
Yeah, but,
But this is a loophole that others have tried to use, and the people in the state government should be more adequately defining exactly what it means, because we're at the sharp end trying to make it work without having the tools.
If the EPA is compromised and the paddocks outside that are being obviously used to the maximum capacity
and beyond.
and beyond, if they're being compromised and the water systems are compromised, we've got a bigger duty than just to,
Yeah, that's right.
because that'll be downstream of.
That's right, that's downstream of Gravesend,
Yes.
but it'll be the Moree wetlands, Binnigai.
And then I just want to know where our legal position would be on that. If we knowingly now have discussed this quite openly
And do nothing about it.
and do nothing about it, where does that leave us legally?
Well, I think that there needs to be a condition of consent. It's not in there at the moment, but I only just finished speaking with the Department of Department of Prime Minister's Agriculture, their section, on Tuesday, And she says they are working on parameters around that. They are aware that the problem is becoming very prevalent now because of people coming out of drought, and they're just continuing on because they see it as a more commercially viable prospect. You can get your cattle in and out fast. So they're aware that this problem is now in the forefront. So I think they're scrambling to try and come up with something to back what a restricted facility is. But as far as the legal consent, I think we need to put a condition of consent that anything that meets the definition of restricted facilities should get a development approval.
Yeah. We have a motion. No,
Sorry.
I was just going to say.
Patsy, there's 6 pens. Divide that into the number of cattle, so we've got 166.5 head per pen. So therefore, is there a ruling that a beast in a feedlot has to have 3 square metres?
Yes. Under the meat and livestock guidelines for feedlots, there is a recommendation that every beast has between, I think it's 14 and 20 or 21 square metres per beast.
Yeah, 21 point something square metres.
They're on the higher end of that per beast at 999 head. So, you know, they could potentially squeeze more in there and still be within the recommended guidelines for the amount of square metres per beast. But, you know, the numbers are restricted under this.
Yeah. Francis, did you have a
I
question?
just wanted to know, is there a requirement for shade for the animals?
There is a requirement or mitigation measures they're supposed to put in place for heat stress. There is no requirement for shade as per se, but they are to take measures to avoid heat stress.
Patsy, would
Like
that
temperature
not be,
monitoring, reducing the manure load, because that affects heat. And there's a number of other things, extra water in the pens.
2026, are they not looking to make shade mandatory?
They haven't. I don't know why.
The Feedlotters Association?
Yeah.
Oh, they might be. They might be, but
It's,
until it becomes...
It still hasn't come into the
no,
livestock,
but
and
I think
that's what they most.
aiming, and I just thought,
They've put
maybe
it in
it's
as an
something we
option.
mention,
It's
yeah.
an option, but it's not mandatory.
okay, not until 26.
You've got to understand too, as I understand, the applicant is already complaining about some of the conditions we've got and they're going to cost him money.
Well, then I have one more question. Do we have a timeline for the applicant to become compliant? Is there a timeline, or can this drift on for the next 50 years becoming compliant? Because we read all of these.
They're supposed to be compliant at approval. Like if they're operating currently,
Well,
as soon as we issue the approval, they have to be compliant.
Okay, so when do we stop what's happening until such times it's compliant? Do we say you feed off what's there, get your house in order, get the tick off, and then how do we do that without shutting down a business? I mean, we need to encourage this business.
Okay, well, I suppose you could put a condition of consent that they become within the numbers in 60 days or, well, 90 days is how long that they've said they're going to be in the feedlot, so really probably 90 days.
But then what's behind has still got to come through.
That's right, still got to come through. And that's really what they're doing out there is backgrounding.
Yeah.
So they're getting the cattle used to the grain so that when they put them straight into the feedlot, there's none of that changeover period where they're getting, used to the grain. So the outside, facility is really, a backgrounding facility.
This isn't going to be an easy situation.
It is not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to even, police in any, because it's under the 999 head, so EPA don't police it. If it was over the 1,000 head, it'd have to have a license from EPA. This is why they've gone for 999 head.
So can I suggest that we make the decision to go and visit this site and have a really good look at it, and I think we'll make a better decision when we're fully.
Catherine, just one quick question here. I couldn't say it in the report, but are they going to put monitors on the river to monitor any effluent that goes down the river?
There is, in the conditions of consent, they have to monitor the water for particular increases in, nutrients.
So who will do that, Patsy? It is in there, I've read it.
Yeah.
But who will do that?
They, as a condition of consent, need to do it. And is supposed to, they're supposed to do it, and they're supposed to report to us yearly on those things as part of their reporting.
Self-monitoring.
Self-monitoring, and most feedlots are. I know it's not ideal.
I thought it'd be a shorter time period than that because
Me too.
Gunhee's got monitors on a slab below on the downstream.
Oh no, they need to monitor constantly,
I
but they
realise
don't report to us. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
I can't we make a condition in there that comes to us a lot, like
You
more than 12 months. Like
You
say
can.
we get a report every 3 months what's happening with the river.
Yep, you can do that.
I can, I'm just not only thinking of the feedlot. I don't really have a problem with the feedlot. As long as I meet all the guidelines.
I don't either. It's
But I'm concerned about
The
if
water.
you change the pH in the river water.
That's right.
Right, you're going to affect people like the nut farm. They're going to be.
Yeah, everybody downstream is going to be affected in some way, whether they're using it for stock watering or irrigation. It's
Never
going to
mind
change
the fish
their.
in the river.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, and the ecological the natural community of the river will change.
Do they have to have a compaction standard?
For the
Or
the pad, the
pens
manure
and
pad.
the pad A, because if I say 30 centimetre pad of clay to stop the
Infiltration.
infiltration, thank you, Max, of all those little nutrients that aren't meant to be going into the soil and out into the river.
Yeah, there is. It needs to have. There's a certain. It's not a compaction, but it has to be a certain level of clay base. So it has to be a permeability rating, and then on top of that, there's a 30 centimetre or 30 to 50 centimetre manure pad, which is compact, which is maintained at that, which is another permeability layer, and it also gives cushioning.
And all the pens have to be compacted too with clay.
They have to have that clay.
Has that been done?
I believe there is naturally
That's
clay
the type of
base
company,
underneath
yeah, it's
them,
like
according to their statement of environmental effects, that the natural clay.
So that's
is-
good enough? We're happy with that?
Well, if it meets, they've said it does meet the requirements.
Okay, just asking.
I'm not the soil conservation, I have to go with what the experts tell me. So, so if they don't meet that, then they're responsible for that again.
Actually, one of the things I'm hearing here is a deficiency in the council's operations. We do not have the staff to monitor all these conditions that we've been putting on. We assume that people do the right thing. And I've got to tell you, from my experience, that isn't always the case.
No, that's right.
And if this is going to be a continuing concern, I think the council will need to actually seriously consider having additional staff whose sole responsibility is to monitor the implementation of the approvals for development applications. But that's something that you'd have to decide.
Can we hand that cost back to the feedlots? Like the number of feedlots that we got in our shire,
If we reviewed our Section 94 contribution plans, we could probably have a small charge against each development, I would think. Do you think
You
that?
might have to create a new contribution plan. The traffic generating one sort of is mainly for roads, so
we'd
you
have
might
to-
have to create a new one that
Environmental.
Yeah.
environmental monitoring or something to that.
We could look at that, but I'm just saying it.
yeah.
It becomes a full-time job to monitor these things.
Right.
It's very
And it's not
easy
just
to sit here and
feedlots,
say, we'll
it's
do this, we'll
quarries
do
too.
that, but, you know.
It's not just feedlots, it's quarries too.
Oh, yeah, quarries, yeah.
There is, and, you know, there's probably a number of other things you can put in there as well.
Yes,
But while we're saying that, Max, we
yes.
do have a responsibility to our
Of
environment.
course we do.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just highlighting the
deficiency.
realities of our
and what
budget
it
and
would
our
cost
stuff.
us
Yeah.
to do it, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we do, like, if you take the Onus Road thing, which is very close to Councillor Dixhart, we could have had people going out there every week, checking it out, counting the dogs, making sure that they were compliant. But we just don't have the staff to do that. Yet, it's a social risk, and it's one that probably the community have an expectation that we do it, but we don't because we don't have the staff.
We
It's a
do
budgetary issue.
Try to do at
We
least
try to.
yearly.
Yeah. But we do rely a lot on the goodwill of the applicants to provide us the information we ask for, and that it's correct.
Would it be in Saul's area that we're talking?
Yes, it would be.
It would be, yeah.
It'd be, you'd have an additional ranger position whose job is compliance, yeah.
I think you'd probably need to look at someone with some expertise around
Yes.
soil testing and
Yes.
water testing and, you know, those type of environmental
Technical
testing,
background,
There must be someone that would
air
contract that sort
testing
of skill
and
to
noise
us that we
testing
could
and
use,
all
say,
those type of environmental impacts.
Right, well, I suppose it's possible that you could
Soil
contract it out,
doctors.
but,
There's still a cost to that.
yeah.
It's still a cost, but we don't have to employ them manually. We could do it once a
Yeah.
quarter.
I was just trying to make the point that, you know, like, it's easy to put conditions on.
Yeah,
You've got,
we've got to be able
you've got to create a, like the ICAC, you know, there's got to be a tangible chance that people will get caught or people won't comply. And you really, that's what you're creating when you have these compliance people, that people are unsure just when they'll turn up. And
Well,
I'd like to back what Max is saying.
Yes.
I think a compliance officer, even though it will cost us more money, I think would be a very sound investment.
Well, why aren't they going back through the Feedlotters Association or the DPI should be on top of that more
Well,
so
they're
than
not.
us?
They're like us as a council. They're
it's like RSPCA too. I mean, what
Well,
do they
most
do?
of those, that they delegate to council.
Yeah,
yeah.
EPA delegates to council.
do nothing.
Can I just say like if we take the Onus Road one again, as I understand it, it was someone who was essentially an employed spy who ratted them out. They got the attention of the RSPCA. It wasn't the RSPCA turning up and doing inspections.
Exactly correct, Max. It was an internal workman that blew the whistle on them.
They don't do it.
Well, I
Thank
don't
God
think
he
we can take this any further from here. I think we need to have a
No, no,
visit
well-
on site,
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a look at it and become more
And-
familiar with what we're talking about.
And we'll look at the Section
revisit
94 contributions plan that can perhaps address the issue
I
about compliance.
just wanted to point out another thing to do with the actual, sorry, did I take
No,
this one?
no.
The statement of environmental effects that I was concerned about, and that's water.
Yes.
That's the one I was.
The water supply for the actual, for the operation of the feedlot. They're saying that they're just going to use harvestable right. As we know, harvestable right is not always that reliable, especially in a drought.
And buy it from other people too. That
And
was
they've got
interesting.
a temporary
And trafficking.
transfer of a water right from a neighbouring, a neighbour. I don't know who that is. They haven't clarified that.
That would only need one neighbourly fallout and it's all
Yes, and
over.
it's gone.
Don't come on our place.
Well, you've also got, you're compromised in the fact that how good is your harvestable right water? Is it going to meet standards? I have questioned this with them and they've said it will. But, you know, again, that's another self-monitoring thing.
I do know that the Coltons out there either have or are planning to put a bore in. I think the bore is already in from my
They're
understanding.
not citing that as usage. They have a bore, I think they have a bore for domestic, stock and
Yes.
domestic, but that's not covered in,
No,
that
that's right.
doesn't extend
Well, harder
to
to get a commercial
intensive agriculture.
Yeah.
My concern with an inspection is that these people have been good enough, paid a lot of money to consultants, and they've stepped forward to put an application in to get approval. We're coming on to Christmas. Is it the council's intention to delay this until next year, or?
Well, we'd bring it back to the December meeting, which is on the 17th of December. Like we'd organise the site inspection next
For
week.
both of them. There's one in at the moment. You could, just because I haven't done the report yet and the advertising it doesn't mean you can't go and inspect
Yeah.
for the other one. So you could probably do that at the same time.
Is
It's up in North Star.
Yep,
Yeah.
Newlands.
Yeah, the other one I don't think has the same environmental issues as this one does, though, in terms of
No,
location.
this one's it's pretty much bordered on three sides by the water.
Yeah.
So the waste issue, and I mean they're proposing paddock irrigation and manure spread. So there is some conditions in the draft conditions consent to minimise, there's a minimum area bordering boundaries and waterways and neighbouring properties and dwellings and things like that, and roadways. But if they spread it in an inappropriate time and it's not dug in fast enough and we get a storm event, there's nothing, we get a major runoff.
There's a big percentage of that country under floodplain level to the west of the house.
Yeah,
Big
actually
percentage of the farming country.
to the south and to the west and even a little bit to the north.
Yeah.
Because it comes right around
Right
like
around the
that
base
and
of
then
it.
comes back again. Yeah, it does a big ass bend there.
Water goes.
You mentioned water there earlier.
Yeah.
Water there earlier.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they'll get a bore big enough to compensate for the feedlot, because I know of
Well, it's
other
not.
properties around there. Like I know, for example, David Ty's old place, Nunga, there was 22 bores put down there and never got water. So
If they were to put a bore down for a feedlot, they would have to get a licence for that. That would have to be a licensed bore.
Yeah,
That's right.
New
Yes,
South Wales
absolutely,
water.
yeah. And wouldn't the waste have to be composted to a certain degree before they could spread it? They couldn't just go and take it and...
They can spread it immediately from the pens onto the fields as long as it is cultivated.
Yeah, you dug in.
That's actually when the person that wrote the submission said that the smell is at its worst, is when that's happening.
Because it's fresh.
Yeah.
There is a compost pad they've proposed to the south of the pens, but I don't presume that it'll be used for overflow that they can't spread on, and that will be composted on site. For that period of
also on that report though, with that compost, they're going to take it to the other farms. The majority of it's going to go off farm. All of
It
that.
says it can't go off farm.
I've got there's a condition of consent in there saying no to off farm.
It can't go off farm. There's something written there.
Yeah, there is.
I'm sure it's in the conditions of consent.
There's something there written about not taking it off farm. But the water.
Because they've nominated their areas where the spread's going to be, so they're starting to take it off farm, then they probably need to be guaranteeing the nutrients levels and things like that.
Right, yeah. Can I refocus the debate here? The
Sorry,
debate's
yes,
actually about deferring the application for a site
sorry.
inspection. And because it's a town planning issue, it needs to be a division where everyone's vote is recorded for posterity. So,
Could you read
So
the
can we
motion?
have a vote?
Could we read the motion again?
yes, the motion is that the consideration of DA 29/2020 is deferred for a site inspection.
Yep.
Can I have a vote for the site inspection?
Yes.
Yeah.
I need hands up.
That's unanimous.
Okay,
So everyone voted for it.
so thank you.
Okay. Finish my job.
Ellen, can you bring the people back in?
I wonder if I picked up half of John's stuff.
The running sheet you've got to leave. It's got running sheet.
I think this was mine. That's John's, is it? I think This was mine, I think I brought those with me.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Patsy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patsy.
Do you want to send, I'll send them up?
Helen's gone to get them. Yeah. Thank you, Patsy.
Didn't set a date for that, Jeff, did we? Didn't set a date for that on the inspection, did we? Didn't set a date for the inspection, did we?
Sorry.
You all right, Catherine?
After all that, it was deferred
Yeah, you're around there.
Probably should, something.
for a
Had a
site
big,
inspection.
big discussion.
So,
Well, that's a good idea,
yeah, item 1.
though. Yeah, no, that's it.
We thought you must have been mustering the cattle.
So we've got till 10:30.
Item 1.
You're up there. It's 10 o'clock nearly. Okay. You didn't nick a heck, did you?
That's the running sheet.
Yeah, I know, but where's my... Did you pitch something from here, Catherine?
Have I pitched something?
I think you
I have
have.
a lot of stuff. What did you want back?
My meeting notice. Anyway,
Hang on. No, that's not.
item 1 is council's activity report.
Yep.
It's there for notation. Would somebody like to move that be received?
Yeah,
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Councillor Moore,
Somebody
seconded
else.
it. Those in favour say aye.
Right.
That's okay. Item 2, proposed meeting cycle. Once again, it's for notation. Is there any
Yes.
problems with it?
No.
Pretty straightforward. So that would somebody move the recommendation? Councillor Dick, your question?
Yes. Mr Mayor, while we're on that, are we having a committee meeting in December?
No,
We're not.
just a council meeting, yeah.
On what date?
17th of December.
Thank you.
it should be.
You sent round a notice to everybody. Committee meeting, I noticed.
Yeah, and the
Very good.
December meeting will actually start at 2 o'clock. At 12 o'clock there will be a luncheon with the awards for long service awards for council staff, and then there will be the council meeting, then the Christmas function following the meeting.
Where's the lunch?
I don't know, we haven't
Oh,
decided.
okay. No, that's normal practice,
Is there,
Councillor Dick.
is
We
there a
don't,
problem or?
Oh, big day. That's what I
Oh,
was
yeah.
thinking.
no, we don't normally have a committee meeting in December because of the shorter month. Okay, so that's the
And
meeting cycle. So
yeah, and hopefully, if the COVID restrictions continue to reduce, we might be able to start meeting back on the
yes,
regular cycles.
they've eased a little. Could I have a mover of that opposite recommendation about the
So
meeting
moved,
cycle?
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Colton, seconded. Councillor Egan, put the motion, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, the monthly executive report is item 3. What did you want to do with that? Good question. So
No, just there. If anyone's got any,
I've got a
easy
couple of things,
questions,
Mark, here.
not hard, are they?
Yeah, one is hard. I usually ask Alex this one, but I'm going to ask you.
Mr Mayor, Max, have we had any feedback from the rest of the
No, that's not it, Catherine.
thing in Warrella? Because that finished yesterday. Has there been any interest from any other
Meeting
parties?
notes, is it?
Well, actually, at yesterday's meeting with the chamber representatives, Amber indicated that Carlo might be very keen to take it on if he can find the space at IGA, which would be excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah, very good. Good
So,
idea.
but I don't know if that will happen, but that was mentioned.
I had it highlighted and everything. My meeting notice is gone.
Oh, geez, you can't ask you a hard question.
It was here. It was here. I have got one, and that was,
Is it ticked?
I had a highlighter on some things.
Oh, this must be mine, wasn't it?
The first question on it was about, I notice in the contamination in the recycling, that guaida's on top of the heap, and that concerns me, and do you think we should be trying to do something about it? And now the Chamber's here, maybe they'd like to take an interest in this
You're talking about the note from the
contractor.
provider,
Well,
the contractor.
whoever they are.
It mentions this in the,
Yes.
Yes.
if I hadn't already noticed, I could go into more detail. But that's-
We,
No, it's all right. It's got to be here somewhere.
We do run regular information
That's not getting hot, right?
campaigns, trying to get people to do the right thing.
I don't like coming last, that's all, out of the other councillors.
Well, it depends which way you look at it. We're actually first.
We're first, yeah.
Um,
We're the highest contributor of contamination.
That's
you know.
right.
Yeah.
but
Only this month.
We are, yeah, only this
it's happened before
It
as
has
well.
happened,
Yeah.
I have
one.
mentioned it.
But this would be another reason we
15.
need
Thank you. Yeah, that's right.
Compliance,
Yes.
yes. Because, you know, in larger areas, they actually do audits on people's garbage bins, and you get into trouble if you.
They put notes on them, I think.
Yeah, that's the first time. The next time you get fined.
Yeah.
I can't
Plastic
find that
bags,
comment.
food scraps and
Well, I had it
clothing.
next, but someone's nicked them.
I think they've nicked mine too.
I bet they would be. Catherine took them.
You can't trust, you can't trust her, I know. All right, well, we'll keep moving anyway. That's just something that needs to be noted. Is there anything else?
But I'll make sure that the, hopefully the local paper will run that as a story and encourage people to do the right thing, yeah.
There's plastics in the
Food
organic bin,
scraps
I think,
and-
wasn't it?
Yeah,
Mm.
plastics, food scraps and clothing it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There might be a lot of colourblind people in the shop for all we know.
it could be.
might be a lot of dumb people too.
No, there's
Got the
not.
microphone on, so I can hear that. The,
They aren't the ones that voted for you though, of course.
I had other things. I noticed one thing I did have was where the new houses we had 2.5, and I couldn't understand that.
That's right.
Did you see that? There's a little bar graph, right? It gives 2.5.
Oh, yeah. Developments,
Yeah, yeah. Developments for new dwellings, all right?
yeah,
Yeah. Or two.
yeah. That's worth a question.
Was that just a small house? Or?
It must have been, might have been a granny
I
flat,
don't know.
Granny flat.
Tiny house.
a tiny house, yeah.
And, it-
Outhouse.
and my memory doesn't serve me well enough to turn the other things I had highlighted.
Can't you find your papers, John?
So, someone else can take over. Yeah, but they're not highlighted. I'll have to read it all again.
You haven't got a mover yet or a seconder for this report?
Oh, okay.
I'll
So,
move it.
thank you. Councillor Dixon moved, seconded. Nobody?
I'll second it.
Yes.
Councillor Young. Now, I'm still going on questions, there's more, this is the
Yeah,
comment.
okay.
No.
Oh, hang on,
Straightforward.
this is mine. It's got highlight and writing.
Are you sure you're
Carl, you
talking
can't trust
about- Oh, yeah, okay.
First one. Now,
Yeah, fair
my other question is, and I know I've declared an interest, but just a technical point with the application for the feedlot, who is the proponent? Because there's two different, on the report
Yeah,
from
you're right.
SMK, it's a different person.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
interesting.
think we need to know that.
Well, I would say that the report that's in my report would be the correct person.
Okay, right.
And I'd say that the name in SMK is probably the person paying the bill.
Yeah, all right, that's probably right, yeah. Well, there's the 2.5 houses on 22. Has anybody else got anything while we're going through it?
No.
I've just got a note here where there's a little bit about the apprentices,
Did you have that time to read your report?
page 29. Couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
The apprentices, we are now eligible, Max, for that money.
Yes, we are.
Yes,
Yep.
we found that out down in Wagga. So that's all I've got in that report.
What did
And
you
in fact-
find out? Sorry, I didn't hear that.
The apprenticeships, that we were a bit rusty on whether we're eligible for that federal funding. We found out
That
in
we are.
Wagga that we actually are eligible.
So that might mean we actually expand that program.
That's
As
a
the
great
state was
idea.
ready.
Yeah, that was good news.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we all thought that, but it came from the Deputy
Yeah.
Director of Department of Infrastructure in the federal government, so
He'll know.
it's pretty right, I think.
She was the attractive young lady that wants that information, Alex.
Yes. Is there any other business arising out of that report?
Yep.
Not, we've got a mover and a seconder. I'll put the motion. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
It's now carried. All right. Item 4, not the organisation of community. Claire.
A full report with all services ramping up after, or the aftermath of COVID-19. Nauru has full occupancy. You'll see our gorgeous residents participating in Oktoberfest and utilising the community garden at the All Abilities Park. Full outline of the Commonwealth Home Support Program statistics there, an outline of the economic development activities, Roxy visitor information statistics as well as the website statistics all in there. Comprehensive, many pages of social services activities in there for you to read through. Included in this report is a listing of our customer service requests. That was something we used to do and it's dropped off, but it's back for you for your reference. And a full governance report. Our community assets, Carmen's kept you all very up to date with the Bingra Pool development and what's happening at the Warrialda Pool as well, so there's nothing probably new in there for you. A full report on our library services. Just a point of interest, our cleaning contract ceased with the company that were providing cleaning services on the 15th of November, and we currently have casual staff undertaking that role with a view to seeing how it goes over the next 6 months and looking at what we do going forward. We believe there'll be considerable efficiencies there, employing our own staff and doing things differently with regard to the public amenities and using our parks and gardens staff to maintain those. Property management information's there. The gyms are open and fully functioning, and happy to answer any questions amongst all of that.
Any questions? Well, is the Bingra preschool capacity 35, is it?
Yes.
Okay. So it's pretty full.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only other note I had was that you've got on page 52 the problem with internet connection at North Star. I think that when Inland Rail starts there, that will be fixed.
Excellent. Another bonus.
We were talking to people that were putting in a tender the other day, and they would have to put something in if they had a camp there, and they said they'd leave it there. Alex, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that'll be one benefit.
Very good.
There were two issues that came out of yesterday's meeting with the new Warrialda Chamber Executive. Their two highest priority items out of their recent meeting. The first one was the development of a splash park at the Warrialda swimming pool, and they identified a grant application that the council could lodge on their behalf to try to get funding for that, which I agreed that we will do. The other one was for the need for a long daycare centre to support people, mainly women, who have trouble finding employment because they haven't got access to care for their child or children. So we'll be opening up a dialogue with the Warrialda preschool and see whether we can move forward on that into the future. So
There was one, Rachel, would you like to answer this? You were talking about a need for shade sails on the pool.
So on where the shade sail currently is, at the eastern end of the pool, the shallow end, it covers predominantly the toddler pool, which for obvious reasons, but especially in daylight savings, from about 3 o'clock onwards, if you're sitting at that eastern end of the pool, which is where all the seating is, you're blasted by sun. The shade sail doesn't go far enough west over the big pool.
Does it need to go over the pool or to the edge of it?
It goes to the edge of it.
No, but the new one, if it's
I would say, people have been asking me to pass on for it to go further west.
Into the shallow end of the big.
Into the shallow end of the pool, over the shallow end of the pool.
Right, well, that's something to note because we do have some town improvement money in there. Jackie, so yes.
Also need for a shade sail up at all of Abilities Park. You can't use the swings there after about 10:30 in the morning because they're just black and they're so hot you can't put your shoulder down.
Yeah.
Shame.
You want something you can take down in the winter, I guess.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
it's a great park.
Well, there's a couple of ideas anyway for that.
There's also,
Yeah.
There's also been suggestions for shade structures where the trees were, the rotten trees were removed in front of the pool for the car park. So
Yes.
something we also need to consider what sort of structure or plantings we put back there.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing, sorry,
Go
Phil.
on.
Just quickly, we're talking about a mural or something on the front of the swimming pool. Have we got any closer to?
The chamber came to us with ideas for that yesterday as well. So we really just need to probably go out to community consultation and decide what the community wants, and it can happen.
Earlier on that, wasn't Dina Jackson going to do something for you as a suggestion? Or?
She was. I haven't heard from
Doesn't
her
come
since.
to us.
Phil, you-
Yeah, Leah, on page 36, could you just expand on that little bit down the bottom, that go local first, about the marketing and economic development team, what they actually come up with there? On page, bottom of page 36.
Yeah. So that's an ongoing program, as far as I know, and it involved a street walk and inform, bring the businesses along. I don't know what the result is of that yet. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and was that the thing that Georgia Stedwick did before she went on maternity leave, Max?
No.
I don't know, which one are you talking about?
You know, she did the drought funding thing, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. No, this is a new program, and Chris Turner's responsible for that.
what's the heading on the one we're talking about?
Page 30.
Down 36, right down, page 36, right down the bottom, Max.
Oh, go local first.
Go local first.
Chris remarked yesterday that he's had a good response from Warialda businesses, and he needs to revisit the Bingra side of the program and then bring together the results.
That was good to see that, where he was that, the response was that great morale, he had to delay the Bingra meeting. And
Yeah,
that's a turnaround, isn't it?
wonderful.
Mm.
That's good, isn't it?
I would attribute that to the new chamber.
So would I. I think it was good to see enthusiasm there.
Could be in the paper.
Should be in the paper.
Yeah.
John, I just was wondering if they've had any updates about when the council websites and the social media will be.
Still a work in progress. It's taken a little bit to make sure we've got all the information in there, and we've got one person working on it that's dragged in a million directions. So it is happening. I can't give you a time, but I can give you a promise when it's done. It'll be comprehensive and complete.
Thank you.
Any other? Yes.
Have we had a report from Rob Sefton towards the economic marketing about?
We've had a draft report come back, but would you like to see it? It was sent to us for to get comment from the staff before they finalise the report.
Just wondering where we're up to with it.
Yeah, I know that we had, I think, Leah might be able to correct me, but I think we've had approval to redirect some of the funding, haven't we, towards this project?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's good.
the bushfire
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I do need a mover and a second.
I've added something to the
Oh, okay.
resolution, to the motion, apart from the one that's in there about the monthly organisation. I've added further that the staff investigate the addition of shade structures at Warialda Swimming Pool and the All Abilities Park.
Okay, fair enough. Somebody like to move that way? Councillor Egan, Councillor Smith, seconded. Put the motion, those in favour say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. Item 5 is the October monthly investment rates collection report. Helen, you're going to have a big day today.
Yeah, so just the standard report. There's nothing too interesting to report. Rates collection is where it should be
Did you fall asleep before you got to this
the
report?
year. I can take any questions if anyone's got any questions.
Unfortunately, no, I don't. Does anybody else?
It's just
Yeah.
normal.
I'm still amazed that the rate collections are
Yeah.
on track.
But it's really an artificial figure, though. You say rates are on track, but they're not. They're only part paid, aren't they? A lot of them.
So they're up to where they should be.
Are they?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the next lot are due 30th of November.
See, you could assume that there would be a definite downturn.
I would have thought.
Given-
Trouble, but no.
We have
Now
been
that's
so
based
lucky
on the
in
total amount of money we should be able to collect for the year as to what we have collected for the year.
Yeah, all right, I know, that's good. I didn't realise that.
Yep.
Any questions of Helen? No,
Happy to move the
Move
report.
for a recommendation. Thank you,
Yes.
Councillor Young. Seconder, please. Councillor Egan, put the motion. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, no, carried. Flying through this. Now the monthly engineering report. Thanks, Alex.
Fairly standard month for engineering. Happy to take any questions on the report.
Any questions of Alex?
Alex, the ponds are coming along quite well.
Yes, they are. We aim to have earthworks finished there this afternoon or tomorrow morning.
Excellent.
It'll be then on to pipe work. We fully expect that one of the ponds will be commissioned prior to the close of council closing up before Christmas.
Are they going to have a lining in those, or are they just going to be
They have a clay lining.
clay based? Yeah.
The material that was taken from the Grarjean Road cutting on the bypass was stored temporarily in our sandstone pit north of the council depot in Warriota, and we've been able to reuse that. So it's 300 millimetres thick and very heavily compacted, and as you'd appreciate, it's quite heavy soil.
Alex, are you using the sandstone out of those ponds? I noticed, I had a look yesterday afternoon, and the second one, or the one close to the road's got a big heap of stuff in the middle.
Yes.
Material that's been loaned. I was surprised the dozer didn't push it out. You're obviously picking it up, putting it on a truck.
Yes, yeah, some of it we were. The job was designed to balance cut and fill quantities. So the original intention was to keep all of the material on site and use it for building the walls of the ponds. What we found there was that the sandstone was very variable. Some of it had quite a degree of stick in it and was suitable for use in the walls and compaction.
Yep.
Some of it was very, very sandy, and no matter how much you flood that, how much you compact it, you don't get adequate compaction in it, so it was removed from site. So the bulk of it stayed on site, some was removed because it was unsuitable.
Right. No, it looks good. The pond that it looks to be on, or it is, it may be finished with, it's been lined with basalt.
Yes, the bottom pond is finished.
Yeah, no, it looks very good.
Yep.
We're aiming to open the truck wash on the 3rd of January.
Yes.
Oh, well, it's the 4th. Oh, this is the 4th.
It's
This is the
the
4th
fourth.
of Mondays. Okay.
There's fourth somewhere.
Yeah, but the idea is we don't want something to go wrong over the Christmas break, and we haven't got people to fix it. So, yeah, so it'll be ready to go before Christmas. So hopefully.
Alex, on the top pond there, will there be anything in front of that to sort of hide it at all?
Yes.
Yes, there will. We did a fairly good job of keeping what vegetation we could when the dozer was in. We do plan to plant native trees along the front of the facility. It will be fenced with a security fence as well. So once that fence is up, we'll start the plantings.
Councillor Dick, yeah.
Alex, the road from Bingra to Delungra, when will we get white lines on the new work?
It's unlikely that will be this financial year. The temporary reflectors are due to be replaced. The reason that it hasn't been line marked is we sealed the first stage that was done in the 18-19 financial year with a primer sealer, and it's in our best interest to get the longest that we can out of that primer. If we get 2 years out of it, that'll be 2 years longer that the final seal will last. So we have every intention of putting another seal on top of that. To line mark it would be throwing away money.
Okay, on the same road, the Mile Creek Bridge has been destroyed now for 4 months. I've had a complaint with truck drivers coming down from Bingra heading to Delungra on a full load with grain, and they've got to stop at the steep bottom of the hill. When are we proposing to get that fixed?
Yeah, so that's opened a little bit of a can of worms between Inverell Shire and Guida Shire with regards to ownership of shared assets. That is the Shire boundary. Inverell Shire originally responded to the accident that resulted in that damage to the bridge and have that's their traffic control that's erected on that site. We're currently in negotiations with the council as to who has the financial liability for that structure.
Are we likely to get some movement before Christmas, before we get holiday makers and?
I would say it's unlikely. We'll make every effort to have it completed prior to that time, but council doesn't have the facilities to install guardrail itself. As you can appreciate, bolting steel things to a concrete structure that will be capable of withstanding the impact from a truck is a fairly specialist area.
Those traffic lights are in real shy, not quite.
That's correct.
And they don't have a red light camera on them, do they?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's them all.
But Alex or Max on this, the dog pound, soon we took the dog pounder away. Where's it been moved to?
I believe it's we're temporarily using the Bingra facility.
Yeah, we're using the Bingra one temporarily.
How further advanced are we on the new facility?
The design hasn't been completed yet. It's just a shed.
Yeah.
Fit out. Look,
I think the real answer to the question is everybody's been flat out tied up with the Bingra pool.
Yeah.
When that's completed, which is on Saturday, they'll be able to be deployed elsewhere. But it's taken all hands on deck there.
Yep.
Alex, we're wondering whether you could just give a brief overview of what's happening with Inland Rail, North Star to the border.
North Star of the border, there's the EIS is currently, EIS display has finished, and we are yet to receive our submissions to the EIS. In terms of construction, I believe we're looking at about 18 months from now before that does commence. We met yesterday with one of the contractors that is bidding for that component of the project. The way the Narromine to Narrabri and North Star to Gowrie sections are being constructed is a little bit different to the Narrabri to North Star section, in that it's being broken up into smaller components, and preferred tenderers will be selected earlier in the process. The meeting that we had yesterday was with a firm that are aiming to bid for the Narrabri to North Star section, and it was a super productive meeting. And one of the things that came out of that was that they were very supportive. I believe they stopped short of giving us an ironclad guarantee, but they did very strongly suggest that were they successful in getting those works, they would be placing a camp at North Star, which would be a real boon for our local economy.
Alex, it was North Star to the border, not Narrabri North Star.
Sorry, there are 4 sections there. Sorry,
No, John Holland's already got the other.
That's Narrabri to North Star that John Holland has, yes.
Yeah. So this is what we were talking to, a bidding for
North Star to the border.
North Star to the border and the border of beyond.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry if that was unclear.
But there was very positive talks, and they would like us to support their application. And I think after speaking to them,
is that Gillespie's mob?
No,
oh, well.
no, they were far better than Gillespie's mob.
Okay, that's interesting.
With their, there was one suggestion was that they'd like to combine with our shire and put somebody through an engineering course, and I thought that was a great idea. They also want to take somebody out of what's it called? Termelo.
Yeah.
And they hope to get an engineer there too.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that they will win the tender, because they seemed extremely keen and genuinely keen on working with council to get some positive outcomes for us, other than just the new rail line through the Shire.
The other thing is they're not a big company, are they? The person that founded the company 12 or 15 years ago is still the chair.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like a private company, and you know, much closer. They'd be much closer to us than a multinational one.
You know, this got nothing to do with the Inland Rail, but I saw that Santos's final approval came through to Narrabri, and they're going to have a community development fund for Narrabri of $120 million.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? Yeah.
And people don't see the benefit of it.
No.
That's the same as Western Australia operates on, they with all those sporting amenities, those shows,
They did, that's all finished. Did they? Yeah. Anyway,
I was going to ask, is everybody aware of our success with Iberville Bore Road and the Fixing Country Roads package?
Well, you
I'll
better-
provide an update.
Yeah.
So late 2019, we submitted a submission to the Fixing Country Roads program for a $9.5 million bid to seal IB Bore Road to the Moree Guida boundary, 20 kilometres of road. The application seemed to have disappeared. We, in the meantime, submitted an application to the Heavy Vehicle Safety and Productivity Program, which is a federal program, for $2 million, which was successful, but it was contingent on the balance of the funding being made available by another funding body or by council. We were advised informally last week that the $9.5 million bid was successful. We're yet to receive the formal paperwork for that, but Adam Marshall has announced it on his social media. That's an $11.5 million win for that road. It's going to be a challenge constructing everything we have on our books. We've got that and the $5 million Horton Road ceiling, which is 16 kilometres of road, and finalising the heavy vehicle route in Warialda. It's a very, very exciting 18 months that we've got ahead of us.
Alex, Adam Marshall told me yesterday that he's spoken to Moree Council about the last, is it 2 kilometres that they own on that road?
Yes.
And have they contacted you, Max?
No, not yet.
Well, I think they're going to, and they're pretty positive about making a contribution, I think, and letting us do it.
Yep.
Doing their bit, which would be a good idea.
Be excellent.
The other
It'd be
thing
silly
is,
not to, wouldn't it?
yeah. The other thing is we're still in running for that ROSI money from the federal government, and I'm hopeful that we may get enough to do the county boundary road out of that. The other thing is that I did speak to Mark about when we finish this IB Bore Road, considering they contributed $2 million and the state did $9.5 million, we'd put a ribbon across and he could just cut the end off it and Adam could cut it in the middle. I don't really think that should go in the paper. Is there any other questions of the engineer?
Alex, the bypass, nothing's going to happen there before Christmas, is it?
No, we are still very actively pursuing the alternate route that would allow construction to commence earlier than otherwise. We have some consultants arriving on the 3rd of December to continue that work, which will be an Aboriginal due diligence assessment. Following that, we would require an addendum to our review of environmental factors that addresses the ecological component of the alternate route. If we get boxes, it ticks in both those boxes, it looks very good for construction early next year.
Oh, sorry, you got a question?
You're not foreseeing any more complications?
I'm not going to say that, Councillor Egan.
I'm scared you'd say.
Is that why you didn't turn your microphone on, Councillor Egan? You didn't?
I said it loud.
I'm encouraged by the progress and the feedback on the on Plan B today. Yes, so I'm saying I'm encouraged, but I'm not sure.
So I get a bit nervous.
You haven't heard those words from Alex before?
No, we haven't.
No, I didn't say that.
Just we do get
He's
a
on a roll, so I'm sure he's going to get it right. You've got all those other roads to work on.
Absolutely no pressure, Alex.
Yeah. It is a hard call. I know you can't make it, but I can say that I'm really optimistic that we're getting towards the end of this.
Yes.
I think that we'll be successful this time round.
Please.
Okay, I need somebody to move the recommendation.
So moved.
Councillor Colton, a seconder, Councillor Moore. Any other questions before I put the motion? Right, I'll put it. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
It's now carried. And the time is, we've still got
You've
time.
got 6 minutes.
Yeah. Item 7. Oh,
Be spot on 10:30.
yeah, well, it's going to be.
This is a quick
we
one,
expect you
surely.
to be spot on with your budget, so.
Yeah.
Item 7, an application from the Bingra, I don't know if they've even formed, have they, the Bingra Camp Draft
So,
Committee?
Max, could I ask the question? I've read this to mean that the Camp Draft Committee would just like to be a member of our
That's right.
That's
One
what it is.
person
Management.
would join the,
Management committee.
that's right,
Yeah, fair enough.
that's all.
Yeah, except for
So
the
that's
showground
fine.
They are
advisory.
represented at the moment, and I think that the guy that is there for the carriage group pretends to be the camp draft,
Oh,
but he's not really the camp draft.
Oh, is that so?
I can't remember what his name is.
Greg,
Yeah.
is it?
Hmm?
Greg.
Greg John?
Yeah, that's right. He's not
He's not
representing
really
the camp.
representative
No.
of anything.
No,
That's
he's
right.
not.
Okay.
Well-
Is he representative of the carriage group?
That's right.
But we've never had a formal
No.
ask, can we come on the committee from the carriage group? It just sort of
Yeah,
evolved.
he just started turning up. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we're going
yes,
to get a mover in a
I'll
second.
move
in a
that.
minute.
I'll
Can I
second
just
it.
Yeah,
before?
that's all right, I'll come back to it. Yeah, Councillor Egan moved, seconded Councillor Dixon. Now,
I
Councillor
don't
Young.
have a problem with it. I just wonder if those are the right words, Bingley Showground Advisory.
It's a bit misleading, the heading, but the recommendation's correct.
Yeah,
Shouldn't it be?
that's what it's
Should be an
called.
advisory.
It's
Is it
an
called?
advisory group, yeah.
It's not the
Yeah,
management
advisory.
committee.
No, it's not a management committee.
Oh,
Well, we work under Showground Management Committee. That's what it always
Oh,
comes out
we
as.
let you think you're a management committee, but you're an advisory committee.
okay.
Oh, well,
So
maybe
there
we
you
should
are.
change the,
We get
Well,
things done.
while we're
don't
on
worry
that topic, I think that I would hope that it could be considered that the trusteeship of the Bingley Showground goes back to a public trust, and council can still act exactly the same way as it is, and we would no longer have to depreciate any of the buildings. I spoke to Adam about this the other day too, and I don't know how difficult that would be, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Max, but
Yeah. I don't
Could we think about
support it, but
that's,
I'd leave it up to the group, actually, I suppose.
it's just, it's purely for depreciation reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was at the Warrior Showground with Adam, and I put it to him. I said, nobody depreciates this, nobody at all, but at Bingley Showground,
Yeah,
council has to.
Yeah.
We're it on our books, and I wonder about whether we can reverse that.
Oh, I think anything's reversible, but there are other issues that are likely to happen in Bingra. You don't want the Bingra community to start feeling as though you're giving away the bathtub.
Well, it's no different to the other showground.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, it is different. It's different culturally.
have-
you know,
Oh,
it
yeah.
having
represents-
come to the advisory committee on that piece?
Well, simply for that reason, there's no underlying,
Unless there's
devious
anything else
reason.
that comes up, could you make a report on that to the advisory for our consideration?
Oh,
Because
yeah,
other
yeah.
than knowing all the ins and outs of it, we won't be able to make an informed decision.
Yes, I can do that. I'll do that if you want.
Thank you.
Okay, now I do have a mover and a seconder for this recommendation. Is there any other questions? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
That's no carried, and with that we will break early,
That'll make Chris Beard happy.
2 minutes early for morning tea.
The public people, so did you want to introduce yourself, Chris, or just jump straight into it?
Yeah, happy to.
Yep.
Thank you. So yeah, good morning, council and staff, and thank you for the invitation to present today on the report on the conduct of the audit of the council. Just by way of introduction, my name's Chris Harper. I'm a director in financial audit at the Audit Office of New South Wales. So before we go into the report on the conduct, obviously this year we've been living in unprecedented times with COVID-19. As you know, the delivery of essential services has been maintained during 2020 through the hard work of council and council staff and risks. Given these unprecedented times, we did extend the statutory date for the financial statements to be audited by 1 month, so that was until the end of November. Pleased to say the council met this timetable and the audit reports were issued on the 2nd of November 2020. So, yeah, nice and early in the month, well before the deadline. Just a little bit of sort of background and context to the audits this year. As you know, in delivering the mandate for local government, the Auditor General's role is to provide independent assurance on the financial statements and supporting schedules prepared by management and then endorsed by council. So we report our findings to management, council, and then eventually through to Parliament. When we interact with Parliament, it's predominantly through our local government report to Parliament, which is available on our websites. For 2020, we'll continue to report on the results emerging from our 2019-20 audits. We expect that this report will be tabled around the end of February next year. But just briefly touch on probably some of the key areas which we'll be focusing on in that report. So as mentioned, impacts of COVID-19 across all councils, not just this one, we'll be looking at the financial implications as well as impacts to both governance and internal controls. Before COVID-19, obviously, we had an eventful year of natural disasters, and again, that's an area of focus for us in the audits and our reporting to Parliament, looking at insurance claims and additional funding received for any of those natural disaster events. Another area of focus is around accounting for landfill sites, particularly around the provisions to remediate those particular quarries and tips, so that's something we'll be reporting on next year. Then finally, as always, we pay particular focus to the IT general controls, so particularly focusing on governance around IT, access controls, program changes, and also disaster recovery. So that's just a little bit of context to kind of the year we're in and the areas that expect to flow through into our reports of Parliament. But now I'll just turn to the reports on the conduct of the audit. Hopefully everyone's got a copy of.
Yes, we do.
I don't think there's some papers, but it should. Yeah. Great. So as I mentioned at the outset, we've now completed our audit of the Council General and Special Purpose financial statements and the relevant special schedules. As I mentioned, pleased to report that on the 2nd November, the Audit Office issued a clean audit opinion of your Council's financial statements for the year ending 30 June 2020. This means the financial statements contain no material misstatements and present fairly. The Office of Local Government's Code sets out what needs to be covered by the reporting of conduct. So note 25A of the financial statements, which I believe is on page 153 of today's late item papers. You'll see there are 6 key performance ratios which are audited within the general purpose financial statements. So councils met the LG industry benchmarks for 1, so 3 of the 6 financial performance ratios in 2020 as presented in the financial statements. The results of this are included in our report of conduct. So I'll just briefly take through some of the highlights of the report of conduct. So starting with the income statement, the operating results. The council's operating result from continuing operations was 1.1 million, including depreciation and amortisation of 8.3 million. This result was 2.7 million lower than 2018-19, and was predominantly due to a reduction in grants and contributions, around 1.6 million, and also an increase in employee benefits and on costs of around $750,000. When we look at the net operating results, that's before capital grants and contributions, there was a loss of 1.8 million, which is around $500,000 lower than the previous year. Again, this is down to the same factors I mentioned around the operating result. Looking at rates and other charges revenue at 10.5 million, this increased by 1.9% in 2019-20. This was mainly due to the normal rate hike allowance increases in the year. So looking at the operating performance ratios, council achieved a negative 4.11% operating performance ratio, which is below the benchmark of 0%. And that was really down to the negative net operating result, which I just outlined. Next ratio is maintenance towards operating revenue. So this really looks at the degree to which council relies on external funding sources, so operating grants and contributions. Council ratio was 58.55%, which is just under the benchmark. It was greater than 60% set by ILG. Again, this ratio did increase compared to 2018-19 due to a decrease in grants in the current year. Just briefly looking at cash investments, so council's cash investments position at 30 June 2020 was $11.6 million, which is a decline around $800,000 from prior year. The unrestricted current ratio, 1.68 times, exceeding the benchmark of 1.5 set by LG. So that means council can meet their short-term obligations as they fall due. Just looking at cash expense cover, so that was 1.92 months. This really indicates a number of months that the council can continue paying for its immediate expenses without needing additional cash inflows. So the benchmark is 3 months, as I said, the council will achieve 1.92. As you'll see from the report, that ratio has remained pretty consistent the past few years. The debt service cover ratio looks at the level of operating cash available to service debt. A ratio of 4 times exceeding the benchmark of greater than 2. So the last of the 6 financial performance ratios is the rates and annual charges outstanding percentage. So this is really looking at the impact of uncollected rates and annual charges on council's liquidity and I suppose the adequacy of their debt recovery efforts. Pleased to see the benchmark was met here, so LG set a benchmark of less than 10% for regional or rural councils. Councils achieved 4%, and there was no significant impact from on this ratio from COVID-19 or other events. So what's the last of the 6 ratios? Briefly having a look at the spend on asset renewals. So council spent $7.5 million on renewing assets during 2019-20. This is a decrease of $1.4 million compared to the prior year. It was really down to the council increasing its rates of renewal works in accordance with its infrastructure management plans. And that renewal expenditure I mentioned was around $766,000 less than depreciation expense for the year. So that's kind of all key ratios and the highlights from the code of conduct. I'd just like to thank council staff for their cooperation, both my team and Forsyth's team in conducting this year's audit. It's been a challenging year, so thanks again, and that closes my presentation. Thank you, Madam Councillor. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Chris. My name's John Colton. Yeah, I will call for questions from the floor, but can I just kick it off with a question on some of the ratios, especially the own source revenue ratio. Is it generally across the board with rural and regional councils this year that that's a bit out of whack because of the amount, pardon me, the amount of funding we've been receiving, as in drought funding and COVID type funding? You know, we've had an extraordinary year that way, or admittedly, a lot of that will be in the next year for you. But are you finding that across the board, or is it only us?
It's pretty hard for me to find across the sector. It will come through in our reports of Parliament next year, but I'd say you're not alone in experiencing some of that. But it's kind of case by case, depending on council's own funding position.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else have a question? Helen, are you right with everything? Yeah. No, I can't feel there's no other questions coming, Chris. So on behalf of the council, thank you very much for your role in our accounting, and thanks for your cooperation, and particularly thank you for giving us the time today.
That's a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Righto. Okay. Right. Yeah. Turn that bloody camera off there.
As far as I checked this morning, we haven't had any public submissions either.
By the who?
Yeah. but there's every chance it could have
We're supposed to table any submissions we receive.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Ted's the only one that usually makes one.
And he hasn't made one.
No.
So that own source funding ratio is not too bad.
No, it's,
No,
Yeah, but it'll be worse next year, won't it?
yeah,
Won't it? Worse next year?
it'll decrease again next
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
And the year after with all this money.
Yeah, money bags next year.
All that money.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, well done, Helen. For, you know,
Yeah, very good.
you got a
Move on.
yeah, you can, but you got a thumbs up from him anyway.
Helen's going on holidays now. Next week. We'll get through Warrior.
One thing about she can't take it abroad with her. We've still got this joint organisation membership, Max. It's a late item.
yes? It's the next item.
That's the next one, yeah. Okay, I'll go to that. Item 2 in the late items. Joint organisation membership. Is there any questions anybody has on that? Or any doubts? Particularly want to know if anyone has any doubts about the proposal. I have contacted the chair of the Namoi JO and advised that we'll be requiring a letter from them of exit from that JO, and I mean that will happen. But he was fairly disappointed, but understanding at the same time. But I think if we go on to the next Namoi JO meeting with that map, it'll be. I won't have to say too much, or maximum I won't have to say too much more about it. Pretty obvious we're in the wrong JO. Yeah. It has been our policy, as in Max and my policy, to try and encourage the two JOs to form one. I made the mistake of saying we should amalgamate, and somebody corrected me, don't ever use that word. But I do really think that there should be one, and I think maybe this might help facilitate that to happen. It's going to be very difficult for Namoi with 4 councils to be able to employ an executive officer, and it just makes sense that we just form into one group. But there was always concern that, you know, one group was concerned about the strength of Armidale, the other one about the strength of Tamworth. If you put the two JOs together, you've got those two balancing each other, I believe. But, anyway, that won't be our problem.
You sort of saying Narrabri could.
Turn your microphone on.
Well, I don't know what the probability is. The mayor of
Microphone.
the mayor of Narrabri, Ron Campbell, is in negotiations with the chair of the Namoi JO, Jamie Chaffey. But then Max tells me the general manager at Narrabri said no way. So I don't know what the probability is. No.
Puts 3 big centres in head centres in the one JO, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd actually be surprised if they leave New England, but I don't know. It's an unqualified comment, really. Is there any questions on this? I'll have to get a mover of the recommendation. If I could, please. Councillor Egan, seconder. Councillor Smith, I think you seconded that, didn't you? Yeah. Right, well, so the deal is that we're going to go ahead then and shift JOs from Namoi to New England.
It's the final decision is with the Minister for Local Government, but I can't see how she wouldn't do that if we had the support of both Namoi and the New England JO.
And we also have support of Adam Marshall.
I'd say so.
We do. I spoke to him about it, and he said couldn't understand why we stayed so long. All right, I'll put that motion then. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against no carried. Very good. Now what do we do?
Quarterly
Councillor-
budget review
Oh,
statement.
is it? Where's that? Where is it? Sorry?
You're not finished with me yet.
No, I'm not. I knew you had another go at it.
Yeah.
All right, Helen, over to you.
So it's the September quarterly review that's got to get passed through council. There's not a lot to report because we had the extra month to get all our budgets sorted and it didn't have to be approved until July. There's not a great deal of changes. The changes that have been made improve our bottom line. So unless you have any questions.
You're going to get away with this because I can't.
The two carry forwards that I've got in there is our Tharawonga money that has to be carried forward, and we also received late last year money from our, I think, is it work cover, the insurance money came through? State cover, to do all of the skin checks and stuff, and with COVID it couldn't happen, so that's happened now, but that money had to be carried forward from last year because it was a rebate that had to go back on staff costs to improve and check. So that's what those two carried forwards are. But yeah, I can answer any other questions if you have any other.
Any questions, anybody?
Can I just ask the one in the financial, and it's just a line, Helen, means absolutely nothing to me, but in Chris Harper's page 86, page 80 of the 86-page report, he says, if based on the work I have performed, I conclude there is a material misstatement of the other information, I must report that fact. What is that?
Means I read that to mean that if he found it, he had to report it, but he didn't find it.
Yeah, so if he finds a misstatement, that's where you get your qualified audit report. So
saying there is a material misstatement.
If there is, it should be if there is a material misstatement.
No, he says, I conclude there is a material misstatement.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 79, and it's just above the councillor's responsibilities and financial statements.
It's all back in here.
Yeah, back in there. Sorry, I had to get back to just ask the
Just after
question.
the pink. I read it too.
No, it says if at the very beginning. If based on the work I have performed, I conclude there is a material misstatement of the other information, I must report that fact.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If
So
the
the
very-
first,
if
There's nothing to report in this
It's
regard.
just really
yeah.
badly worded.
yeah, okay.
So that's how you get your qualified opinion
Yeah.
report. So
Okay.
there's a council that took all their RFS assets off their books. They received a qualified audit report because the audit office believe that's a misstatement of their annual statements because they're not including the red fleet.
That's what you get for fast skim reading. I do that all the time.
Missed the first one.
Yeah. Okay, there's no questions of Helen. I'll ask that we're going to move of the recommendation.
I'll move the recommendation.
A seconder, please. Councillor Smith, those in favour say aye. Aye. Okay, thanks, Helen. Thanks very much, Helen, for your efforts and all of that.
Yeah.
Yes, getting us in early.
Yeah.
And now we've got the audit presentation.
Oh, what do I thank the auditor? I did that.
No, but yeah, but
Now we've got to accept this.
All right.
now you just
So
officially
the recommendation on, what is it, item 12?
Item 12, yeah, it's all right.
I just need a formal mover and a seconder, please.
So moved.
Councillor Colton, seconded. Put them everywhere. Councillor Moore, we'll put that motion, those in favour say aye. Against no carry.
Okay. Now you can have,
I'm going to go to reports.
or you can have councillor reports.
That's what I'm going to go to. Councillor reports. And I'll start with you, Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, I've got a, apparently there's a few dead trees in the Shire that's falling down on cars.
How many, Councillor Dixon?
But in Bombilly Street, there's 2 dead trees. I think they should be looked at. And there's a few around that we should be looking at because it's not real good.
Do that, we note it. Is
I
that it?
agree.
Anything else, Councillor Dixon?
Yeah, no.
You're done? That was your birthday message, was it, today?
Yes, yeah, it was,
thank you.
yeah.
And have we checked our roadsides because of that tree that killed that fella? Have we got any? Because they're so dry that when
Address
it
this to the
blows.
engineer.
Yeah. We don't attack every tree that's over the roadside because there would be literally thousands of them. When we are aware of one that is of a serious concern, we'll knock it down. If there's a specific one that you'd like me to look at, we don't need environmental approvals to knock anything that's hanging over a public road. Okay. So it's quite easy to do.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Smith?
Just a couple of, I had a ring from a Wendy Egan. I don't know her. She's tied up with the Kruger Hall and just on the renovations there that they've had grants for air conditioning and windows and a few things in, and she rang me the other day complaining that it's taken a fair while, and apparently she'd been talking to Cog Fuel about it. They're worried that they've got contractors lined up to do, apparently what happened, with the air conditioning, they've only got louvers in there, and they want to change the louvers to sliding glass windows. Apparently now we've got to change the DA or whatever the plan organisation for it. And she's been talking to Cole, but anyway, I won't go on to that. But I rang Cole and I rang her back. She's still a little bit, I think it's more her personality, but she was still not real satisfied.
What's her last name?
Egan.
And she's no relation.
She's hard to satisfy.
Could be a relation of yours.
She's not related? I have no relations.
She's a nice personality, she would be.
Anyway, Cole's been in touch with her, and actually Cole did go on the last meeting, which was on holiday day.
It's possible that what's got to happen is a change in the approval from the funding authority, and that does take a long time.
Yeah, that's what I told her, and that's what Cole told her, and she's still worried that she's got contracts from more already lined up, and she's worried that it's going to be another couple of months. It might get dearer or something like that. Might get older. And Cole said the same thing. We'll have to just wear that if that happens.
I'll check it out. Yeah.
But anyway, I think Cole's. I've run him back, and I just said, look, you've probably just got to wait. Anyway, no drama there. I think. The other one, just a quick, as most of you know, we had a fire break meeting yesterday. John might have just helped me, or Curly, with some of the stuff here, because I've got quiet. But we had a meeting with Heath Simpson and Shelley Smythe.
Yeah, Shelley
came up, and Heath is the second bloke down from, or our northern representative from Bob Rogers. And he was I thought he was very good. They've indicated they'll help us in every way. I still get the feeling that they've still got, their hands are still tied because of all the regulations. Just how far we're going to go, I don't know. But at least they've come up, they've had a look at what we've got to do, and they're supportive of us. And they mentioned that they have got their own mitigation team. I don't know where we end up with that, Mac. Did we? They indicated they would come up with their own.
We're going to indicate to them the high priority areas that we believe could be attacked.
Yeah.
And I think Shelley was going to send us a plan that we could...
Of the mosaic, yes. So we were going to take the two things, the mosaic plan that they have, and identify council's priorities within that, and get those ones expedited. And the second thing was if we have any land that is leased from Crown Land as asset protection zones, that hadn't had the 6 metre boundary clearing that we are permitted to do, I believe there was a commitment that RFS would carry out those works for us.
The rest there's grant funding available and whatnot, but I still feel that, and where are we up to with that SMK?
Yeah, Peter yesterday told me that he thought he may have a draft today. After that meeting yesterday, I sent him an email and said, could he look at identifying near the high school and around Nauru and the hospital as strategic fire zones that they were talking about yesterday. So he's going to go back and look at it and base it on that. And I think that before the end of next week we should be ready to submit something to the Crown Lands.
As we were saying, yes, a lot of the scrub that we're looking at trying to do something with is full of dead pine trees, and from the drought mainly. They're only going to be a hazard in a fire, stopping us from whether there's some avenue for us to say, well, what's the good of having dead pine trees right up to people's fences over there up on the mountain. So
I think too that I got the impression that they would be supportive of our plan becoming the Warrialla Community Fire Plan.
Yeah, well, we mentioned that.
Yeah, and if they do that, that would relieve a large part of the responsibility under that biodiversity legislation to compensate for the removal of trees. It just seems so crazy to me. It's unbelievable, but
Anyway, I thought it was quite a successful meeting. Curly and I took them up to show them a bit of just near the SES building there and a bit further up.
did they agree that that should just be cleared? That dead stuff?
It doesn't need to be cleared. That it's probably a prime example of you know what. It's an eyesore for a start.
Yeah.
Even if we can get them to do, or whether we can do a bit more along, even if we went in 10 or 20 metres of some of that, just would help a bit too. But it's not, and I kept saying that bit there is not the most vital bit. Is down behind the, behind those houses below the Shire depot, end up on the top of the high school. And
Yeah.
anyway, I think we've just got to keep plugging away at it.
Yeah. I think we're making forward momentum now, though. Oh, that's the impression I got.
Yeah, I think Heath reckons we'll get there, but it might take another couple of years to achieve the 150 metre break.
Hopefully, Warrialla won't burn down in the
It was
meantime.
the first meeting we've had, apart from the meeting we had with the Commissioner, where they were enthusiastic and on side. We've struck resistance as though we're having a go at the RFS, and we weren't. But the Commissioner has obviously spoken to Heath before this meeting, and I thought it was a big change around, and I think Heath's like a breath of fresh air.
I think they've given us their cards and everything else, and it's obviously they're interested, and I think at least we've got them to keep pushing as well. So, yeah.
Have you struck Heath before, Councillor Dick?
Yes, he came from SES.
Yes.
And he was
He's an ambulance.
He's been an ambulance,
assigned to SES to clean up SES, and he did a very good job. He's based in Tamworth, and he's, as Jeff said, he's directly responsible to the Commissioner.
Yeah.
Seems to be quite a practical man.
Very.
I've met him 3 or 4 times. And I've spoken to him about Warrialla, and he's certainly on our side.
Oh, yeah. No, I was pretty impressed with the man. You got any more, Jeff? That's it? Councillor Moore?
On that, John, I don't know just what he was saying there yesterday, but I don't know whether he's fully aware that we're so high up in the high risk category.
He did say that we were Warrialla and Wobbegar were the 2 high risk ones.
2 highest risk ones.
That's within the district though, it's not in the state.
Yeah.
We thought originally that was in the state when we first heard it, but it's not, it's within the wider zone.
Yeah. Still a fair area.
But one thing he also did say, if I might add to what Jeff said, he said the Bushfire Management Committee needs to really look at their document, which is due for review about now, so, and he said that, so we'll get a lot of help there to bring that into line, so. Was it risk statements, I think it was, Max, wasn't it, something they were talking about?
That's what that Shelley does.
But the Commissioner, when we spoke to him, he's well aware of the danger. He's no risk about that. They believe Warrialla is a really hot spot, pardon the pun.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
It's encouraging, isn't it?
That's you, Councillor Moore, you've done?
Yeah. I copped a bit of flack over the cash can recycling. I went to the dump, or at the rubbish tip there last week, and 2 people fronted me, and they were pretty irate about it moving. But one bloke questioned me on what the staff's going to do if they're not doing the recycling. What's he going to do for the other 4 or 5 hours of the day? And I said, I don't really know, but no doubt he'd have work to do. That's all, and I just noticed getting around the last few days on a few roads that there's a bit of rubbish, a few bottles starting to be thrown out again, and cans and things like that. Well, that could change if I get there.
Can I tell you that at the Chamber meeting, I don't know, I don't think this is confidential, that Carlo's looking at taking it on in their yard.
Yeah. And I hope they do, because it's a big thing to lose. So what's our situation when if nothing happens, like they've got to bring their cans to Bingo.
Did we get no response from the service
I
club?
don't think we had any.
No.
But Saul's doing that, he hasn't spoken to me about that. It's not our responsibility.
No, I realise that, but
It's more of a chamber thing, really, that.
yeah. So we've got to have an alternative. We don't have to, but the community's got to have an alternative to.
It was such a good scheme, and it's just a shame it was costing us so much money.
Yeah.
I think it'll be resolved within the community, but it mightn't happen tomorrow. I think it's going to happen.
That was that. Have we looked at other alternatives? Now we haven't got the commercial, or at this stage. Were we looking at other alternatives to where we're going to put a green space?
I don't know that there is any. We wanted to put it in the middle of town.
Yeah. It looks like the chamber have got plenty of ideas for the money.
Yeah. Other than that, I really haven't got anything. Other than that, really, no.
Thank you. Councillor Dick?
Mr Mayor, just to make people aware, Monday, Bingra is going to have 40 degrees, Warriolda will have 41, a hot westerly wind of approximately 30 kilometres an hour. Yesterday, I was on standby for Northern Tablelands. They had 7 lightning strikes within 45 minutes. So I implore the Shire and our residents to get ready for the fire season. Certainly, if they haven't filled out a fire plan, they need to have a conversation with their family about what is going to happen if either Warriolda or Bingra or Gravesend, any of our villages, are impacted by fire. The service is on high alert for this Monday. I'll be down at the shed here waiting for call out, so please be careful. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then apparently there's a little bit of rain coming, maybe in showers late next week. So that's all I've got. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dick, and I concur with what you say. And this is not a flippant question, it's quite genuine. In your experience, I know we're going to get through hot days, don't worry about that, but in your experience, is the weather forecasting that you receive close to the mark? And I'm talking more about the rain than the heat. I know the heat's coming.
Well, I mean, the service, the Commissioner made a report to group officers saying that he is ultra concerned about the northwest area.
Yeah.
We have very few stock. We have long, dry grass. Once we get to end of December, January, it's going to be whatever green grass we've got is going to hay off. 58% of our fires last year in the Gwydir was lightning strikes.
Yeah.
These fires expand extremely quickly and they're very fast running.
Yeah, I understand all that. My question was more directed at the accuracy of the forecast that you receive, weather forecast, because they've been generally so inaccurate lately. The last 3 years, it's been terrible.
Yeah, I don't have the answers for that, Mr Mayor. I mean, this is going to be a very different fire season. I don't think we're going to have a real lot of activity this side of certainly the new year, but I believe in the new year we will have possibly as bad as last year. Grafton has an out of control fire at the moment. It's come across the Pacific Highway and it's a very dangerous fire, threatening lives, threatening houses.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened to the La Nina forecast. It seems to...
The forecast to the service is that it's, would you believe it's going to be a wetter summer?
Yeah.
I don't quite believe that. I don't see any evidence for that. Our area here is certainly dropping back into drought.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we're recovering.
No, I agree.
I think and probably the council, there are people now running out of water. I think the council's going to be called on again to do deliveries of water, certainly in and around Christmas.
Right. Okay, that conclude your report?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much. Councillor Young?
Yes, I just wanted to inform everybody that we had an art gallery meeting and it all seems to be going quite smoothly. We've still got a few things to iron out. I don't think that, I guess what we resolved at the meeting was that we would hope for a end of February, somewhere around there, opening. So we're going to do it properly and make it a worthy place to go and visit. On the news some weeks ago, there was an announcement about, in the bush, electric car plug-in places. And there was going to be about 35 or 40 of them funded. And I'm wondering, is it worth us looking into something of that nature? Because we're the right distance from the coast to drive across to plug in.
Tenterfield's getting one of those.
Are they? Yeah. I'm just wondering if it's worth following up.
NRMA's doing it, aren't they?
NRMA, yeah.
NRMA, I'll check it out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Colton?
Just to add to what Jeff said, there was yesterday the Rural Fire Service, there's a program called ADA, which is to assist the infirm, the disabled and the elderly residents in a once-off program to tune up around their house and that sort of thing for bushfire. So I'll pass this on to Rachel. The only other thing I've got is that I attended with the Mayor and General Manager conference in Wagga last week, which was called Roads, Regions and Resilience. It was all resilience. There was hardly anything about roads, which was very disappointing. I was pretty disappointed in the whole conference, actually. I thought it was too much focus one way and there was nothing about roads, but I do thank Council for the opportunity to attend anyway, so yeah, even though it was a bit disappointing.
Thank you. Councillor Regan?
Well, Max, could I just ask that we have a number of garbages put down near the pontoon, please?
Yes.
Because it's becoming a little bit of a broken glass, that
Yeah,
sort of thing.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we
I
do
think that
need to have some.
There's some suggestion that the Year 12 kids continued on their little celebration and
There was
There
only
wasn't.
about 4 of them too.
you know, like there wasn't any, there aren't any garbage bins there, so I can
No,
understand.
it needs
but there will
garbage
be,
bins
yeah.
and signage. The signage needs to be there.
Like no diving. Is that the time
Yeah,
signage
that
you're
sort
talking
of,
about?
that sort of thing,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Just
We'll
that-
come back to you,
Yeah,
Councillor.
thank you.
just so that they know that they're doing it at their own risk,
Yeah.
not councils. The other thing, we did have a Zoom meeting on Monday for the state local government. If you think state local government conferences are boring, you should have been at this. There's nothing can describe it.
There's an email there, we can make comment on it.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet.
Yes, I haven't done it, I've got it, I just got it.
It really was bad, wasn't it?
Yes. And our motion didn't get
It didn't even
presented.
get up,
Ran out of time.
and the smart techno people had procedural votes and they kept bringing 108 up past everything else. It was just getting to the point where it was,
What was our motion then?
To do with the Aboriginal claim on our bypass land. And it was put aside last year, and this year they ran out of time. They didn't
We should complain about the other people who are bringing their motions forward.
well, that's how I took it when those procedural things
Yeah,
came
that's what
from
they were doing.
108. Is that what it was?
Mm,
That
they were. There was about 2 or 3 of them got up, and then
Yeah, and then they
Tenterfield
realised what
said
was
no.
happening.
Yeah.
So that was really bad.
The other thing is that the technology wasn't very good. It was taking ages for people's face to come up on the screen when they were speaking, and that slowed it down a lot.
And it took ages to get the votes up and everything.
Yeah.
It really isn't ready for that sort of.
No.
But anyway, that was just a comment on
There
that.
wasn't any
so
choice, I suppose.
That's all I had.
Go back to you,
I
Councillor.
just wanted, while Catherine was talking about the pontoon, do we need a barrier there? I saw a car parked up,
There's going
with the.
There's going to be large sandstone blocks
Oh,
defining
yeah.
the car
So
park
they
area.
can't,
But we don't want to put them in until after we finish the work putting in the tables and chairs.
because they were coming off the pontoon into the car, so they'd parked right up to the, not the pontoon.
At the edge of it, the
rampy
path
thing,
and everything.
That'll be defined.
Right. Well, I can summarise a lot of stuff, I suppose. I've had a couple of meetings now with proponents that are vying for the inland rail section from North Star to the border, and it's been quite interesting because they've been instructed they need to engage with the local council, and they have been very well. That's been refreshing, and on both occasions we've pushed pretty hard for a camp at North Star. I gave them a few phone numbers the other day to contact at North Star, and they did, and spoke to locals, and I believe it's going well. I'm going to Moree tomorrow morning. They're having the turning of the sod for the Narromine and Narrabri section of the rail. And after that, I've been asked to accompany our federal and state local members to the IB Ball Road, where they're going to do a photo and announce it's $11.5 million that we've been given. I also attended the conference in Wagga with Max and David, and concur with David's comments, or Councillor Colton's comments, that it was very little road in the Roads Congress, very little. And it was difficult because there was about 80 people there, and the rest of it was virtual. The rest of Australia was attending virtually. I know that I was talking to Jamie Chaffey through it, and he said part of it they didn't get at all. He was trying to participate. And the state local government conference was, they had no choice. It had to be a virtual conference, but it's very unsatisfactory way of doing things.
I think they lost half a day with people yapping, and they could have been just got a conference of motions instead of all these people that we didn't.
Well, presentations weren't that good.
Times.
Yeah. Anyway,
Can I make a comment?
yeah.
On a positive side, though, one of the speakers was the doctor who went down and saved those kids in Thailand. And that was absolutely the highlight of the event. I mean, his presentation was just unbelievable, and what they went through to save these kids was really remarkable. He thought when he sent the first kid out that he was euthanizing the kid.
Yeah.
He didn't think it would work. And then he said by the time he got up to the 9th and 10th, it was just automatic routine, it was just amazing.
Well, it was interesting.
And the guy that died, he was a seal, like the Thai seal equivalent. The guy made the point, he said, you can be a really good diver, but if you're not a caver, you just don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
And this seal guy panicked and drowned because he didn't know, he'd lost his line and just didn't know how to recover.
Yeah.
It was a great day.
When they put it on the last item on the last day, so you had to stay
on there. On another matter, we received a letter from Adam Marshall, which was forwarded to us for comment from Warrialda Rail, and the letter contained a couple of issues. One was about mobile phones, which wasn't really our issue, but the second one was about a water supply for Warrialda Rail. We did have to provide a lot of tanker top-ups to Warrialda Rail. What we would like to do, if the council are agreeable, is actually conduct a survey out there, because people need to understand that it would be quite expensive. We estimate it would be between $2.5 and $3 million to provide a water service there.
How are you thinking of providing?
Well, we would probably have to do bores as a first step, so there'd be an investigation process, but they probably warrant it. I mean, Gravesend have got a water supply, and Warrialda Rail, the population is increasing.
It would need to be made very clear to them what the water rate would be.
That's right. That's what we want to include. We don't want to just send out a survey and say, do you want water? Of course they'll say yes, but we were telling them exactly how much it would cost. Now, we did the same thing at Gravesend many years ago about the provision of sewerage. And when people understood how much it was going to cost, they suddenly decided they'd put up with the stuff down the back lane. But, that's something that we might have to revisit actually sometime. But are you happy for us to conduct that survey?
Very good.
I think that that's fine. I wouldn't be making too many promises though. We've got to come up with that sort of money.
Oh, well, it'd have to be government funded too.
Yeah,
They'd have to understand that it would
okay.
be,
It'd be great to be able to do it, that's for sure. Yeah. I don't know, you could, if I was doing it, I'd be drilling alongside Kelly's Gully there somewhere. But the water out there is very, very hard.
Yeah.
And it's hard to find.
well, I can tell you that when we were looking at alternatives to the water supply here at Bingara, when we had that arsenic issue, and they made us drill everywhere, most of the water we found was just not potable. So, yeah.
All right. I don't have anything else, so we can go into the confidential session, I guess. Thank you for the press's attendance very much. I would ask for a motion, Councillor Egan.
Yes,
Thank
that's
you.
fine.
Move into confidential
Marilyn
session.
usually seconds it.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Dixon.
Yeah.
Put the motion as in favor, say aye. Against, so carried. Righto, item 1. And we're going to conclude the meeting, and General Manager, would you like to finish that off for us, please?
Yes. The adoption of the recommendations of the confidential session. The recommendation from the Committee of the Whole is that the recommendations of the confidential session, namely Warrialla Truck Wash, that the report be received and noted, and the closed monthly Organisation and Community Services report for October 2020, that the confidential Organisation and Community Services report for October 2020 be received, are adopted. That's the motion now being put to the Council.
Move on a second, please, for that.
I'll move it.
Councillor Young has moved that way, and a seconder, please. Councillor Smith, thank you. Put the motion, those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, no carried. Declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Well done, everybody.
Thank you.
Mr. Vitt? Just one thing, I'll have a bit of a plug for Killertide. On the 3rd of December, there's going to be the crack up sisters at Killertide. There's done by the Drought Support people. Yeah. Crack up.
Send him a